Hi, everybody. Welcome back. And I am absolutely delighted Stephen has joined us again. Stephen Tweed has joined us again. And we're going to look this time at attraction. And this is a huge area of challenge for all care providers, really, and an area of opportunity. And Stephen has lots and lots of research on this. So where should we start, Stephen? I think it's tempting, isn't it, when recruitment is getting so tough, to take anyone. I know people are very grateful if people actually show up for interview, but it's important that we are fussier than that. What are some of your views on attraction? What are you seeing in the US market?
Well, as you know, it's just a very difficult market to find people. And as you and I have talked before, Neil, the very best caregivers are already happily working for someone else. So as we're focusing on attracting high quality applicants for the roles that we have open, we need to really have a focused strategy to reach those people that want to do this work. And we did some research in 2015 on attraction methods being used among home care companies across the US and Canada. And the results were so interesting that we actually put together a white paper, what we call a sponsored research report. And one of our software companies in the US sponsored that, so we've been giving it away for free. So we're going to make that report available to you and to your participants in this series so that they can see what we learned from that. And the conclusion we came to is that with your attraction plan, your recruiting plan, you really need to sort of have a three-pronged approach. And clearly, employee referrals are the best source of high-quality applicants. And so having a targeted, focused employee referral program. Second is your digital online job boards. And I know you've done a lot of research and we'll be talking about how to use online job boards. And then the third piece is what we call face-to-face recruiting. It's getting out into the community, networking, working with, for example, one of the top sources we found is four-year schools of nursing, other colleges and universities, vocational schools, and then other, what we call centers of influence, individuals who can refer you to somebody who wants to work as a caregiver in the caring field. And so sourcing it, I know we're going to do a whole module on sourcing, but having a focused strategy. And then the second part of that is, how do you display your job advertisement? What are the key principles in writing a good job ad?
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, we should perhaps you because you mentioned that we should pick on that particularly because I see job adverts often written from the point of view of like a frustrated recruiter. You must not do this. You will not. We must have a car. And or they look the same as everybody else's. So I know you've got some advice on job advert wording. So, I mean, could you summarize some of that? If I was a new recruiter, new into care, what on earth should I start? How should my ad look?
Yes. Well, regardless of the source, whether it's online, whether it's your employee referral program, whether it's a job flyer in a grocery store, there are several key elements of writing a good ad. The first is you have to grab them with the headline, and people read headlines. And so if you put carer wanted, well, that's pretty boring. But if you write a job ad that says a rare opportunity, people are going to go read that ad to figure out what's the rare opportunity. The second then is to tell your story. What we're finding is that effective advertising, whether it's recruitment advertising or marketing advertising, is about telling your story. People connect with stories. It's about emotion. It's not about logic and facts and bullet points. And so we have to tell the story. And part of the story is, why would someone want to work in my company? Years ago, I had a seminar that I was doing around the US called "Why in the World Would Anyone Want to Work for You?" And if you don't know the answer to that, you're dead in the water. I'm sort of bringing that concept back, is that as leaders, and in our last module we talked about the CEO mindset. As leaders, we need to be clear about why in the world someone would want to work for us, and we need to be able to tell that story.
Mm.
And then we need to tell them specifically how to go about applying for the job. And so whether you're in an online job board, whether it's a promotion that you're sending out to your employees for your employee referral program, or whether it's a job flyer that you're posting up in the community, capture them with the headline, tell them the story, explain why they would want to work for you, and tell them how to go about applying for the job.
That's great advice, and just those points could fundamentally change the response rates that you get from that.
Absolutely, yes.
And another element, since we're talking about this, it's a good moment, I think, to talk about the issue of pay. Now, this is a fascinating one, and I know many providers that I speak to think that offering more money, is the answer to everything. Obviously, we could talk for hours on pay, but I'd love to just get some feedback from you on your views on pay in care and the drivers that, what impact that has.
Well, like you, Neil, I'm convinced that the reason that people stay in this profession or stay with a particular home care provider is not because of pay. It's other things. The reason people stay is, number one, they're doing meaningful work. Mm-hmm. Number two, they feel valued and appreciated by their clients, by their immediate supervisor, by the company. Number three, they have some level of flexibility. We know that people work in home care versus institutions because of the flexibility. And our research shows that pay, in terms of retention, is like number 7 out of 7 items. However, we were having this conversation in one of our mastermind groups. As you know, we run in the US 3 different groups of home care CEOs. They're similar sized companies. They do not compete with each other, and they come together twice a year to share ideas, to solve problems, and to support one another. And we were having this conversation in one of our mastermind groups. And a light bulb went on for one of the members, and he went back and looked at his job adverts. And he said, we were advertising a culture of our company and why people should stay. And he said, I realized as a result of the conversation, we need to attract more people in. And so we started leading in our advertising with financially related factors: pay, benefits, paid time off, retirement planning funds. And when we did that, and he said, we did not increase our pay. We simply focused on it in the advertising. And our number of qualified applicants went up by 400%. Mm-hmm. And in talking with other owners about that concept, we created the mantra that says money matters more in recruiting than in retention. Mm-hmm. That money won't keep them there, but talking about money will get their attention and cause them to apply. And so I know you and I talked about the negative impact of raising base rates. Yeah. In our country, in Seattle, Washington, when they raised the minimum wage, they're in the process of raising it from $11 US to $15 US. When they got to 13, caregivers called their agency and said, I have to cut back my hours because I'm making too much money. It's interfering with my Medicaid insurance and my food stamps. Yeah. And so it didn't have the effect that they wanted. And so therefore, we realized that while money is important, there are some negative consequences of this conversation as well. And so as a result of all of this research, we came to what we call the 70th percentile concept. Now, in the US, a lot of our home care is private pay. And so the company can determine what they charge the client or the customer and what they pay the caregiver. And by doing some research in the local market, we identify a bell-shaped curve, and we look at the 50th percentile, and then we look at the 70th percentile, and we say our goal will be to be at the 70th percentile for both billing rates for our clients and pay rates for our caregiver. Now, we may not be there. We may be at the 50th or the 40th, but we want to move in that direction because of this idea that money matters more in recruiting. But once we get good people in, retention becomes a whole different story. And it's about meaningful work, feeling valued and appreciated, having some level of flexibility. And then it is about fair pay.
It's very interesting. And as well, when you're advertising with a pay rate, and therefore that is where the driver is, that audience are active job seekers, aren't they? So they're not from other sources. They are active job seekers. And we found as well over here in the UK that very much the people looking for a job will focus very much on the money, and then other things like how local it is and the type of shift pattern you're offering and so on. But money really drives the story there.
Exactly.
The impact on retention are very complex and interesting, but no, that's fascinating.
And the other thing about attraction, Neil, is that as you and I have talked, the very best caregivers are already happily working for someone else. And so the traditional recruiting methods may not reach them. And so we need to be thinking about what are the ways that we use centers of influence and referral sources and employee referrals to identify those caregivers who are already happily working in this profession. To them, it is a profession. They care about their clients. They get emotionally connected with their clients. And so if we're going to find those kinds of workers, we need to look at some other ways of sourcing our advertisements and our message in order to reach those high quality caregivers that are already working in the field.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I think, people will say to me, you may have it over there as well, that, there are retail sites, particularly the food shops, Aldi and Lidl we have over here they're growing rapidly. And then the fear of the provider is, I'm going to lose my staff to something that doesn't involve, say, personal care.
Right.
But I think we should look at it the other way, that there will be lots of people who are high potential, who are working in a job that doesn't give them those rewards. And so we need to take the fight to them, really. And as long as we sell the right benefits, then I think we can attract, like you say, people who are not looking for a job, but have this nagging feeling that I should be doing something a bit more that gives me more value, that I have a calling for. And it's activating those people in the community as well that I think is a really exciting opportunity.
Exactly. This is all great stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And I'm really pleased. I mean, you mentioned sourcing. We're going to dive into that one in the next module, and I know you're happy to join us for that. But for now, thank you so much, Stephen. The Stephen's report is available below here. You can download his report. It's an excellent insight into the feedback from many providers in the US and in terms of what works for them and what doesn't. So thank you for making that available to everybody, Stephen. Thank you very much for coming along.
My pleasure. Talk to you all in the next module.
Thank you.